Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really digging into the early life and influences of Steve Jobs.
That's right. We're using Walter Isaacson's biography as our main source here.
And the goal is to give you a clear picture of what shaped him, without getting totally lost in the weeds. We want to pull out those key moments.
Exactly. We're aiming to see what foundational experiences, what core ideas really set him on that path. Understanding this early stuff helps make sense of his later successes and, well, his complexities too.
Okay, so let's jump in. Early exposure to electronics and design. His
Yeah.
father seems like a big part of this, even though he wasn't an engineer himself.
Absolutely. Paul Jobs working on cars, taking Steve to junkyards. That was huge. It wasn't formal training, but it was incredibly practical, hands-on.
Learning how things work just by tinkering.
Right. And more than that, those junkyard trips taught him about resourcefulness, even, negotiation. Steve talked about watching his dad haggle over parts.
Ah, so you see the seeds of later skills there, like finding parts at Haltech.
Precisely. That whole scavenger's paradise idea. He learned early on how to find value, how to negotiate for it. It wasn't just about the mechanics.
And then there were the Eichler homes. That's more about the visual side, the design sense.
Yes, very much so. And what's fascinating is how directly he linked them to Apple's later vision. He called them smart and cheap and good.
Simple, clean design for everyone.
Exactly. That idea stuck with him. Things like the floor-to-ceiling glass, radiant heating. He saw elegance in that simplicity. He literally said it was the original vision for Apple.
Wow, connecting it all the way back.
Yeah, from those homes to the first Mac, even the iPod. It wasn't just liking nice things. It was a belief that good design should be accessible, it should improve life. That became core to Apple.
It's interesting, though, that his dad tried real estate for a bit, and that didn't quite fit.
No, it didn't go well. Market downturn, financial stress. But the big takeaway for Steve was his father's integrity. Well, Paul Jobs just wasn't comfortable with the sort of slickness he felt was needed. He didn't like the schmoozing, the servile attitude.
So he went back to being a mechanic.
Right. And Steve really admired that. It taught him about staying true to yourself, respecting honest work. A really valuable lesson, it seems.
Okay, let's shift a bit. The Hewlett-Packard connection. This feels like a more direct step into tech.
Oh, definitely a turning point. He was part of the HP Explorers Club and got really obsessed with the HP 9100A desktop computer.
Just a kid getting excited about a calculator, basically.
Well, a glorified calculator, as he called it. But yeah, he said he fell in love with it, and that led him to do something pretty audacious,
Which was?
calling Bill Hewlett directly at home to ask for parts for a frequency counter he wanted to build.
No way. Just cold called him. What's a frequency counter, by the way, for those of us?
It measures electrical signal frequency, how often something repeats per second. A cool project for a young electronics nerd.
And Hewlett actually answered and helped.
Even better. He talked to him for a bit, agreed to send the parts, and then offered him a summer job at HP.
Just like that. That's amazing.
Yeah, so he got this inside look at a tech company, though, it was assembly line work, putting nuts and bolts on things, as he put it.
Did he mention anything about the engineers?
He did. He noticed the difference, the engineers upstairs having donuts and coffee while he was on the line. Maybe an early glimpse of the different worlds within tech.
Let's fast forward a little to the summer of '72. Sounds like an intense time living in a cabin.
Yeah, with his girlfriend, Chris Ann Brennan. It was intense, definitely formative. Their relationship sounds like it was complex, kind of up and down.
And his dad wasn't happy about it.
Not at all. Which just highlights Steve's independent streak, right?
Yeah.
And then there was the car fire incident.
His Fiat caught fire. Sounds scary.
Nearly fatal, apparently. But his dad still helped him out, despite their disagreements. And after that, needing money, that led to some creative job hunting.
Ah, the costumes at the shopping center. That image is pretty funny.
Right. He, Wozniak, and Brennan dressed up as Alice in Wonderland characters. Alice, the Mad Hatter, the White Rabbit, for $3 an hour.
Did they enjoy it?
Well, Woz seemed to think it was fun. Jobs, not so much, apparently.
Maybe a hint there about their different approaches. Was liking the fun of it, Jobs maybe seeing it just as a means to an end?
Could be. It's an interesting little contrast, for sure.
Wow.
Different motivations, perhaps.
Then came Reed College, a big shift towards counterculture.
Oh, massively. Reed was transformative. He discovered Be Here Now by Baba Ram Dass. That book really hit him and his friends hard.
What was the big idea in that book?
A lot about living in the present moment, spirituality, Eastern thought, detaching from the ego. You can kind of see how that might feed into his later intensity and focus.
And he met Daniel Kottke there, too.
Yes, another key relationship. They bonded over Zen, Dylan, psychedelic experiences. Kottke had this great description of Jobs, both really cool and high-tech, captures that duality.
They were really diving deep into this stuff.
Totally. Reading Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, Autobiography of a Yogi, they even set up a meditation room. And Jobs was open about using LSD alongside meditation as part of that exploration.
Sounds very intense, like the trip to India.
Extremely intense. The head-shaving incident with the guru, which he tried to explain away as being about his health.
Right, saving his health. A bit unlikely.
Seems that way, especially contrasted with him apparently having this angry outburst in a marketplace later. But then you also see his generosity when Kottke got robbed. Jobs helped him out.
Was he in touch with his parents much during all this?
Not really. Communication was pretty sparse over those 7 months in India. So his return, showing up looking quite different, was a bit of a shock for them.
So after India, it was back to Atari.
Yep. And his return was pure Jobs. Barefoot, saffron robe, handing Al Alcorn a copy of Be Here Now.
Yeah, seriously. And he got his job back.
He did. Alcorn let him work nights, partly to keep the peace, manage his intensity. And then Nolan Bushnell gave him a challenge.
The breakout game.
Exactly. Bushnell wanted a single-player version of Pong, basically.
Yeah.
And he offered a bonus if it was designed with fewer than 50 chips.
Did Bushnell think Jobs could actually design it?
He knew Jobs wasn't the hardware whiz, but he figured Jobs would push Wozniak to do it. He recognized Jobs' drive.
And Jobs immediately went to Woz.
Straight away. Promised to split the fee. Woz was thrilled designing a real game. A most wonderful offer, he called it.
But there was a catch, wasn't there? A deadline.
Very tight one, 4 days. Jobs needed it done quickly because he wanted to get to an apple harvest at the All-One Farm commune.
Did Woz know about the deadline reason? Or the bonus?
Yep. Jobs kept the bonus detail to himself. Woz just trusted Jobs and pulled 4 all-nighters, designing at HP during the day, building the prototype at Atari at night.
And he actually did it, under 50 chips.
Amazingly, yes. Only 45 chips. A brilliant piece of engineering by Wozniak.
But the money situation, that caused problems down the line. This seems like an early example of the reality distortion field.
It really does. And it's a sad part of the story. Jobs apparently told Woz they only got $700 from Atari, gave him $350, and kept a much larger bonus himself.
Woz didn't find out for years.
About a decade later, yeah. He said it hurt him deeply. He understood Jobs might have needed the money more, but the deception, it was painful. Shows a darker side, perhaps, of that drive and persuasion.
Right. Okay, so moving on from Atari, we get to the dawn of personal computing, the Homebrew Computer Club. It's amazing how the Bay Area counterculture got mixed up in tech.
It really is a fascinating intersection. Initially the counterculture was pretty suspicious of computers, saw them as tools of the man, big government, corporations.
Centralized control.
Exactly. But that started to change in the early 70s. People began seeing computers, especially smaller ones, as tools for individual power, for expression.
Like Timothy Leary shifting his view.
Yeah, Leary started talking about personal computers as tools for expanding consciousness, like psychedelics. And you had Richard Brautigan's poem, All Watched Over by Machines of Loving Grace. It's like Bono said, kind of jokingly, the pot-smoking, sandal-wearing hippies accidentally invented the 21st century because they saw things differently.
And the whole Earth catalog played a big role in that thinking.
Huge. Stuart Brand's catalog, focusing on tools people could use themselves, tools for convivial use, really captured that spirit. Jobs loved it, especially the final issue's message, stay hungry, stay foolish.
A line he'd famously use later.
Indeed. Brand himself saw Jobs as being right at that nexus of the counterculture and technology. Plus you had groups like the Portola Institute, the People's Computer Company, all fostering this idea of personal computing.
And that led to the excitement around the Altair.
Yes. The Altair 8800 kit computer featured on the cover of Popular Electronics. That really kicked things off for the hobbyists. It was something tangible they could build themselves.
And that's what sparked the Homebrew Computer Club.
Precisely. Gordon French and Fred Moore started it specifically because the Altair was coming out. It became this amazing hub for people. Hackers, hobbyists, future entrepreneurs like Bill Gates and Paul Allen were around sharing ideas, showing off what they were building.
A really vibrant scene, and it's in that environment that Apple starts to take shape.
Exactly. Wozniak had designed this really elegant computer board, mainly to show off to the club folks. He was planning to just give away the schematics.
Just give it away.
Yeah, that was Woz's style, but Jobs saw it differently. He saw a product he convinced was, hey, let's sell these boards.
That's the classic partnership, right? Was the engineer, Jobs the visionary, the marketer?
That's the dynamic starting right there. Was even admitted later he wouldn't have thought of selling computers on his own. Jobs saw the potential, the business opportunity.
Did Jobs have a plan? Or was it just an idea?
Oh, he had a plan. Figure out the costs for designing and printing the circuit boards, sell them for a bit more, make a small profit. Simple idea initially.
Was convinced right away.
He was skeptical about actually selling many. 50, maybe? But Jobs framed it differently. He didn't just talk money. He talked about it being a fun adventure.
Appealing to their friendship.
Right, and the idea of having a company. That seemed to resonate more with Wozniak at that stage than just the cash. It was about building something together.
And then came the moment they needed actual cash to get started.
The famous story. To get the capital for that first batch of circuit boards, Woz sold his beloved HP 65 calculator.
His prized possession.
Yep, and Jobs sold his VW microbus. Real commitment, putting their own valued things on the line for this adventure. The very beginning of Apple.
So looking back at all these early moments we've discussed,
Yeah.
what are the key takeaways, the really foundational bits?
Well, you've got that hands-on learning from his dad, the junkyard resourcefulness, then the Eichler homes, instilling that design sensibility, simplicity, elegance for the masses.
The HP job giving him a taste of the tech world, even from the assembly line.
Right. Then the intensity of Reed College, the counterculture, the spiritual seeking, the trip to India, all feeding into his unique worldview.
Yeah.
Mixing technology with artistry and a kind of mystic intensity.
And the Atari experience, the collaboration with Woz, learning about games, but also maybe some harder lessons about business ethics.
Definitely. And finally, the homebrew scene, catching that wave of personal computing just as it was starting to crest. It's this incredible mix.
How do you see these threads connecting directly to Apple later on? We see the design focus, obviously.
Clearly, the clean aesthetics,
Yeah.
the user focus, but also that drive, that ability to inspire and push people the positive side of the reality distortion field, maybe. Started early. The insistence on integration, hardware and software working together seamlessly. You can trace the roots back.
It really is striking how these different streams, mechanics, electronics, design, counterculture, spirituality, flowed together in him.
It is. It's not a typical path for a tech founder, is it? It underlines how varied experiences, even things that seem unrelated, can combine in really powerful, unexpected ways to shape someone's vision.
So a final thought perhaps for you, the listener. Think about your own path. What are the diverse, maybe even seemingly random experiences from your early life?
Yeah, what influences have shaped your perspective? What are your personal junkyard trips or unexpected phone calls that might hold the key to your own unique potential, maybe in ways you haven't fully recognized yet?
Something to definitely reflect on. Join us next time for another deep dive.